Bread is a staple food, at least in Western culture. But not all bread is created equal. Some is healthy and some is not. So, what makes healthy bread? We're in Palm Springs, California, and we're going to my favorite bakery, Peninsula Pastries. It is run by Helen, who moved here from France about 10 years ago. Everything is delicious here. So, Helen, what makes your bread so special? I've heard to make your food you bring flour all the way from France. This is very far, thousands of miles away. Can't you use just local flour?
No, we didn't want to use the local flour because we did check at the beginning when we started our business 10 years ago, the flour are not pure. They are, for us, contaminated by pesticide, GMO, bleach, which is totally forbidden in our country. So we decided to work with a tiny company close Paris, a company who controls their culture. They have a special quality level about that, and they don't use any pesticide. Everything is pure. It's like organic, but they don't have the organic label, but it's similar. So we decided to import the flour from France, which is more expensive, but it is our choice. And for that one, some customers with gluten intolerance in this country can enjoy our bread. The quality is great, and the bread baker is really important too, because nobody can do bread like we do in France with our French expertise.
So, what makes good bread? Of course, as Helen mentioned, you don't want contamination. Also, the skills of bread maker are important. But there is more to this. Traditionally, bread is made of just four ingredients: flour, water, yeast, and some salt. You can change water, yeast, and salt, but the quality of the main ingredient, flour, varies drastically. Why? To understand this, let's see the anatomy of a grain. All grains are composed of three main parts: the germ, from which a plant develops, endosperm, which supplies the developing germ with energy, and bran, which protects germ and endosperm. As one can guess, germ contains the most nutrients. Indeed, it contains proteins, healthy fats, E and B vitamins, and a lot of phytochemicals, many of which can serve as antioxidants. Bran also contains many nutrients that are good for our health: fiber, B vitamins, and minerals, such as selenium, magnesium, and copper. However, the biggest portion of the grain, endosperm, contains nothing healthy, mostly starchy carbs. To make it worse, the only protein that it contains is the one that some people try to avoid: gluten. Okay. Germ also has a bit of gluten, called WGA, but its amount is very little. So, endosperm is a double trouble. Yet, this is exactly what most commercial flour is made of: just endosperm without germ and bran. The modern milling strips away the bran and germ, producing refined flour. Why strip the bran? Because bread without the bran with its fiber is softer and puffier. Why strip the germ? Because bread without the germ, which contains fat, can be stored for longer. But what are we left with? Endosperm, just starch and gluten, something that we don't want. And that is what refined flour is. This is your typical supermarket. This wall of plastic packages is bread. Most of it is made of refined, super processed flour. It is easy to get lost here. Lots of packages and lots of ingredients. look at this. Has this wall any healthy bread? Here is a simple guide how to spot a healthier bread. It should have whole wheat flour as the main ingredient. The description missing the word whole in wheat flour means that it doesn't have the bran and germ. Stay away from this. Also, stay away from bleached flour. Bleaching is a harsh chemical process that destroys any leftovers of healthy nutrients. Enriched flour means that some nutrients, for example B vitamins, have been added back to the flour. Why? Because this flour was stripped of them. Sprouted and keto bread seems like a healthier option. But what about the taste? I'm not a fan of it. Another thing. Most bread here is full of additives and preservatives like calcium propionate, sorbic acid, citric acid, etc. This brings us to the problem of preservatives. They are found everywhere and we don't pay attention to this. But let's use common sense. Preservatives inhibit growth of microbes. However, if preservatives inhibit them in your food, they will do the same in your gut. No one doubts that microflora is very important for the health of our gut and overall health. Unfortunately, not much research has been done on this. And when such studies are done, my guess is that the results will not be pretty. As a precaution, it is better to stay away from preservatives as much as you can. Most bread in supermarkets is not healthy. Yet, many customers don't mind it and even prefer it to traditional bread. Why? Because this bread is easier to chew and to swallow. Also, the bread is pre-cut and can be stored for weeks, which is very convenient. Old way of milling, which is stone grinding, doesn't strip either germ or bran, making bread healthier. Stone grinding still exists, and you can buy bread made of old-fashioned flour in some stores. For example, Peninsula store that we just visited has it. It costs a bit more, but it's worth it. I think that bread made of such flour is tastier and of course healthier. But yes, in contrast to super processed bread, this bread has a crust and requires a lot of chewing, which brings us to a question: how to eat bread? Yes, there are things to know about eating bread. In order to feel the taste of it, you must eat it right. You have to chew it. Most people don't. Scientifically, you must chew each bite of bread 20 to 30 times. And it is not just to break down it mechanically and to appreciate the taste. It is also to begin digestion. Saliva in your mouth contains an enzyme called amylase. This enzyme begins breaking down carbs into maltose and dextrins, which eventually are broken down into glucose. Maltose and dextrins have a sweet taste, so if you feel sweetness in your mouth, digestion of bread has begun. Okay, final note and the word of advice for storing bread. Let's say you decided to eat traditional bread, which is the healthiest and the tastiest. The problem is that it is good only for 1-2 days, if you are lucky. Here is an illustration. I used to know a woman who lived in Paris for a long time. She told me, no, you don't buy bread every day, you buy it twice a day, first in the morning and then in the evening. Who buys bread every day, especially in America? Never mind twice a day. I don't, and you don't have to. Here's the simple trick: freeze it, and store it until needed. Note: don't store it in the fridge. It will not taste good. If you eat small portions, pre-cut it into portions that you need for one meal and tightly wrap each of them with plastic. Here's what I do. I store it either in tight plastic bags or wrapped. If you don't have an appropriate bag, just wrap it with thin plastic, like this. When needed, just warm it up. You can leave it for a while at room temperature. However, bread might get soggy. I prefer to put it in the oven around 350 Fahrenheit. Just 2-3 minutes will ensure the crust. If you need just a slice, chip it with knife, assuming that the bread is pre-cut, and bring it to room temperature. I prefer to put it to a toaster for 1-2 minutes. Also, even better, put it on the pan with butter or oil and sear it until golden brown. This works well with darker bread. It can be a meal itself, and it doesn't need any additions. I guess it's done. It doesn't look pretty, but that is how good bread looks like, and it tastes absolutely delicious. Try and enjoy. And don't forget subscribe button. In the next episode, we will talk about strawberries. One note, I'm not associated with Peninsula Pastry Store in any way, either financially or personally.